Hi everybody, welcome. Michelle here from Batshit Crazy and welcome to May 2018 in session with the expert, and I'm here with lovely Maureen today, my friend and yoga teacher from Yoga Yourself, and we're just in conversation as per usual and just going to go with the flow and see where it takes us, and hope that you find it really useful. So welcome, Maureen.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for a nice cup of herbal tea.
You're very welcome. So I always start by saying, just tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us a bit about you and your business and what you do and who you serve.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm Maureen. I am a yoga teacher. I teach Iyengar yoga. I haven't always been a yoga teacher, so I used to be a musician for many, many years. I think I was on the road as a classical musician, as a violinist, for about 25 years. And that was kind of full on. Had 2 kids at the same time, so I was doing that whole kind of 90s mother thing of madness, super mum, trying to be, and I don't think it's possible actually. Anyway, that's my diagnosis on that. I think it's very difficult. So lots of running around, lots of travelling the country, trying to bring up kids. 1 divorce later, remarried, so packed a lot in, and then just kind of got a bit thought, yeah, something needs to change. So I felt like I'd just done everything that I could do on the violin, everything I wanted to do. So I started to looking for a new way to kind of earn a living, I suppose, and trying to work out what I was passionate about doing. So tried a couple of things which didn't really work out, and ended up finding yoga at the suggestion of a friend who said, I think you'll like this. And I thought, no, I'm sure I won't, because I was doing loads of running. I was kind of really, 90 miles an hour, like a cat on a hot tin roof. And I just thought it'll all be lying on the floor and it'll just drive me insane. Anyway, it wasn't like that at all, because Iyengar yoga is quite a strong method of yoga. It's very meticulous. It's quite hard work actually. So I thought, oh, this is interesting, and I really liked my first yoga teacher, and it just went from there. I wasn't even thinking about being a teacher, but I just knew that it made me feel good, and so I just kept going back for more, and I just became absolutely fascinated by the subject. And then gradually I just thought, maybe there's something here, and just went on the teacher training to see what happened and where it took me. And where it's taken me is that I ended up doing that and training as a teacher. I've been teaching for about coming up for 10 years now, I think, 9 or 10 years, and I've built my own business with probably about 160 yoga students, something like that. Have had my own yoga studio just up the road from here, which is where I met Michelle.
Yeah, which is where I attend my weekly yoga classes,
Yes.
yeah, which has been my saviour. So a bit like you, I suppose I came at it the same way you did, looking for something to just ground me.
Yeah.
So how long were you a student of yoga before you started playing with the idea of it becoming a business?
At least 3 years. A very strict Iyengar yoga method, and that's one of the things that I like about it. So you can't, without being disrespectful to any of the methods of yoga, there's no shortcuts. You have to put the time in, you have to put the discipline in. You can't just pop off and come back 6 weeks later as a yoga teacher. They are very strict about your attendance all the way as a student, so you have to have been, at the time it was 3 years of continuous attending at class before you could even begin the teacher training course. And then it's pretty much another 3 years, so it's the best part of 6 years. And then you have lots of exams to pass, and they will fail you if they don't feel that your yoga is kind of, which sounds a bit kind of
sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, but it
doesn't
isn't. It's just about commitment and discipline, and adhering to the lineage of what you're learning, and commitment. It's about showing up time and time again, and having that discipline to take yourself out, to learn about yourself and to study your body, and to just be really, I keep using the word discipline, but that's kind of what it's all about.
But discipline in a good way.
Absolutely.
We talk a lot about self-care, don't we? And that's, I suppose, if you can't demonstrate discipline in your learning, how are you going to demonstrate discipline to your students through your teaching?
Yeah, I think it's probably true to say, whatever you do in life, if you want to be good at something, whether it's swimming, whether it's looking after, like, self-care, whether it's the food that you choose to put in your mouth, it all starts from a place of discipline, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to be successful at, comes from a place of discipline. It's not just, I don't feel like it today, so I won't bother, or I don't like that, so I won't do it. It's wrestling with those parts of yourself, the weaker parts of ourselves, that will take you to whatever you want to achieve in your life. So discipline is hugely, hugely important.
Yeah, it is. I often talk to my clients about if you want to make lasting change, then there has to be commitment to the process, and it has to be constant and consistent. It's about that, isn't it?
Absolutely. But yes, I had no idea how it was all going to end up. I just was planning on getting the qualification then C, and I started teaching from home, and it just gradually evolved to where we find ourselves today. So yeah, it's been an interesting,
pretty successful business.
much more successful than I ever imagined it being. I never imagined that it would kind of earn me as much money, that it would be, I'd have so many committed students. You know, it just never entered my head. You know, when you made that little business plan at the start of this journey, and you think, you know, I remember looking in the box at the end of the first class that I ever taught, and I think there was about £45 and 2p or something in the box. I remember looking and thinking
2p, that's interesting. I wonder where that
I don't
came
know.
from.
That's not going to keep body and soul together. How's this going to work? You know, and you have to have that faith along with the discipline. So Abhyasa and Shraddha, faith and discipline.
What, you'll have to repeat that for everybody. Go on, tell us what
Okay,
was that?
so a couple of those, they're Sanskrit words that come from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So Abhyasa is a Sanskrit word for repeated practice, returning to that time and time again, you know, until something is burnt within you. Some behavioural patterns, those changes of behaviour that we're talking about, are absolutely, you know, baked within your body. And Shraddha is faith. So even on the days when something's not going well, when you're not enjoying it, you have to have faith in a higher power, higher, the journey really. You know, if you keep working dharmically at something, it'll have a good outcome for you. Might not be the outcome you expected, but it will have a good outcome.
Which is something we also talk about a lot, isn't it?
Yes.
Not expecting a particular outcome, but trusting the process.
Yeah.
So I love that. I'm going to have to borrow those two
No,
words,
you
I
have them.
think.
They're not mine. They're from
Definitely
Patanjali.
have to
So.
borrow those. So now you've got a successful business. What keeps you going? At what point, what was the pivotal moment, I suppose I'm trying to say, where you realised this was actually a business and it was something you wanted to carry on with? And also, I suppose there's an underlying question to that. At that point, did you still feel you wanted to continue with it? Because there's sometimes a point with people where something's been a hobby and they turn it into a business, where you can think, you know, it's that kind of be careful what you wish for, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
it's an interesting one. It becomes a bit of a paradox as a teacher, because what essentially starts as a passion, and it has been a real passion in my life, and it saved my life actually. And I think it's fair to say, I remember an Indian teacher saying this, a lady called Firuza Ali, saying that everybody comes to yoga looking for something, which is kind of what you said a few minutes ago. And that might be a physical thing, or it might be an emotional or a mental thing. Everybody's coming looking for something, and you generally get more than you've bargained for out of it. So yeah, it became a real passion and an interest, and it still is to this day. But having said that, when you make that passion your business, it does change your relationship with it. So you've always got a little bit of your teacher head on a lot of the time. Even when you're trying to do maybe a yoga class for yourself, or you're attending classes for you, there's always a part of the brain that's thinking, oh, I can share that with my students, or I can... But in answer to your question, you know, I just think I've always just kind of I've always had that feeling of passion about it, and I've just followed that and seen where it's taken me. So instinctively, I knew it was the right time to kind of find a bigger venue. Instinctively, I knew, well, a couple of landlords have kind of, you know, I've had to move out of places, so that's not always been instinctive. But, you know, when I first moved out of house, it was an instinctive thing that, okay, I'm ready to go a little bit further with this. And there's never been any regret about changing the career at all. You know, a lot of people looked at me like they thought I was crazy when I said I was going to stop playing. And, you know, as a musician, people often say to me, oh, that's really sad, what a shame. And I'm like, really, it's not.
like
it's absolutely fine. Yeah, non-musicians, yeah. Really, it's so fine. Yeah. I'm just so fine with that. So it's just been a very instinctive journey so far, and will continue to be. I think it's still going to evolve. It's going to be a changing thing.
And so you're how far in now? How long in? 6 years, more or less?
No, I think I've been teaching for 9 or 10. I can't quite remember which way around it is, but certainly, let me think, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 years in the premises outside my own home, and another 3 years before that at home, 3 or 4 years at home. So yeah, it's going along.
Time flies.
It does.
And so, I suppose the question is, how do you feel about it now? You know, so kind of 9-10 years in is quite. You know, I've been in business for myself now 13 years this year. And I think there's a point at which you go, okay, so what's next? Do I?
Yeah.
I suppose because I work with creative entrepreneurial women, we have a bit of a boredom threshold.
That's me. I'm good at that mercurial
and we need
kind
to
of
feel
character.
challenged,
Yes,
don't we?
definitely.
We need to, you know, there is a point, and I think it comes around about that 9-10 year mark where you think, is this enough? What now? What next?
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And you know, I've actually created something that I didn't think I'd have the confidence to create a few years ago, something that I really didn't think I'd have the confidence to do, and I've kind of done it. And I had this figure in my head, I had this figure in my mind that I thought, if I can earn this much money, I'll prove to myself that I'm worthwhile, So I had a lot of that going on, and I've ticked that box now. And now I'm thinking, right, okay, well, that's not working so much now. I've done that, and actually now I'm ready for it to move in a slightly different direction. I'm not so driven by that anymore. And so, yeah, I think it does need to evolve, and it is going to evolve, and I'm excited about that. So what you think you might want might not be what, you might do it for a bit and you think, okay, well, I've ticked that, and now there's something else that I'm going to go in a different direction. It's not being frightened of that. That's been a big learning curve for me this year.
Right.
Not to be frightened of change. Okay. And to accept that, something, if you start to change the way you feel about something, you have to really listen to that, and it takes guts to switch this off and start to listen a little bit more instinctively in here.
Yeah, and that's interesting because you just said, it's about that, whether you set it yourself or somebody else sets that marker for you of, well, I'm okay, I'm earning this much now, so I'm a successful, or I'm doing this, or I'm serving this, or I've created that, so tick. That's following almost somebody else's process and somebody else's ideals and working to perceptions, isn't it? And then, so how did you make that switch? I know you said this year has been a challenging year for you in that respect. So how did you make that switch to, I suppose, tuning in to yourself and really following your own?
Yeah, well, it has been a really interesting year. I mean, it started off with losing my dad at Christmas, which wasn't unexpected, but it was kind of, he died quite quickly suddenly at Christmas. So that was something that has been, has obviously had a big impact on the way I've been feeling. And then also a particular set of circumstances where I work has kind of forced my hand, and I've had to look long and hard because the premises where I'm running my business now, I'm not going to be able to use that for various complicated reasons. So, and that was a complete shock. So on top of losing my dad, and then this massive shock where I was actually standing there watching this business that I've worked really hard to create, sort of essentially being crumbling, really. Well, not crumbling because I haven't lost a business, but I've lost a premises, which means that the way it's been running I've had my hand forced to make some decisions that I probably wouldn't have made if this particular set of circumstances hadn't happened. So I wasn't planning for this, but it's been something of a bit of a tsunami coming through my life, losing my dad and this set of circumstances to bring these changes. So there were two ways to kind of handle that, really. And don't get me wrong, I did the dramatic grief and drama and upset for a good few weeks, and then I thought, right,
it's cathartic.
Was very, and you have to go. I did have to go through it. I absolutely had to go through it and think of the unfairness of this particular situation. Then you think, okay, well, let's look for the positives in this. Let's just think about where the deep learning is in this difficult situation that's not right and it's not fair, but this is what's happening. There's a lot, and in terms of what life can throw at you, it really isn't that bad. So it's how do we find out what we can take from this situation and make it into a positive and grow from it? Because the deepest learning, I know that it does, occurs in those really dark, challenging places. If you're prepared to sit with the discomfort and sit with how you feel about something, rather than try and push it away, just sit with it and be. I did a lot of that. And now I feel really positive about what's happening. So even though I would have just kept going. But if I'm really honest, I was becoming quite depleted. So yes, you hit this financial target that you think great, and the financial reward's very nice. But for me, and the way I have to earn that money by turning up and teaching, it was becoming very, I was starting to feel very depleted by it, and realising that I don't want to be a manager. That's not where my passion is. That's not where my skills are. That's not the direction I want to go. So I've had to kind of go that far down that particular road that I thought I wanted to go down, to realise that actually I need to listen and hear a bit more, and that's actually telling me some very different things.
Yeah, and we do work to those perceptions, don't we? And I know we've talked about that, where there's attachment, there's resistance. So when you're attached to that perception of what a successful business looks like.
Usually about money, isn't it?
It's usually about money, it's usually about numbers. Whether that's monetary or people, it's about that fixed premises thing as well. I've got a studio and I've got money and I've got people and all the rest of it. And then you daren't admit that you're burning out. You daren't admit that actually this thing that you've been planning and working towards for years is actually probably not the thing that you really want anymore. And it's really difficult to admit that.
Really
isn't it?
difficult. Really, and if I'm really honest, there was this little voice saying that, I was like, don't be daft. You're just tired. You just have to go and have a kip or whatever. And actually, no. Now I've kind of admitted it to myself. It just teaches me the importance of learning to listen intuitively rather than listening to the head all the time. The chatter, the sensible decisions all the time.
It's freeing, isn't it?
Very freeing.
When you really start to talk to yourself. When you really connect.
Yeah.
When you reconnect, because sometimes you've got to disconnect to reconnect, haven't you? So you have to disconnect from that perception and that, you know.
Takes practice as well, doesn't it, I think, to trust yourself, not to just, you know, I'm just... Yeah. These feelings from here have more value than possibly up here.
And I think, you know, we forget that there's a force out there somewhere that knows what's for our greater good. Whether you call that God or the universe or a higher energy or whatever you call it, it works to our greater good, for our greater good. And if we're not listening, we've talked about this a lot, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
If you don't listen, if you don't get the messages will keep coming through harder and stronger.
Yeah, and I think
there will be lessons, and you will keep learning lessons, and they'll get tougher until you learn the lessons.
Until you're watching the writing on the wall and listen up, and you need to deal with this. You need to face it, and you need to deal with it. So so it's been very much a year of that, and I feel like I'm coming through the other side now. They call it a dark night of the soul, don't they? You have to go deep, and when you're in the dark night of the soul stage in your life, you have to go really deep. You have to just almost cut the outside world off, sit with all of that dark night of the soul stuff, and just be there, and just you will get, and my experience has been, not force it, not panic, and you will find your way out very slowly.
Great. I talk a lot about sort of going internal. And really connecting to your inner voice, to your inner guide. I think we've all got an inner guide, and we ignore it. We kind of push it down and work to those perceptions, those worldly perceptions.
And also for me, you sort of think this inner guide's going to be there shouting, and actually that's not been my situation. You know, we're looking for guidance, and that's something I'm very, very interested in at the moment. I hear people talking about spirit guides. I think, I want one of those. Where do I get one? You know, how do I get one? And I think, and it's not found one yet that I can honestly say, but what I have learned is that is just a very gentle sense of knowing. Very gentle, very quiet, and if you just sit with that I think is guidance. And I think I'm just beginning to get more understanding of what that really means. And it's not fireworks, and it's not all singing and dancing, and it's not, some people's experience of it is like that, but mine isn't. I keep thinking I can't do this. This isn't working, but I think it is actually. It's just.
So what would you say the key is then to just spend that time, to be quiet, to be with yourself?
Again, it comes to discipline, doesn't it? And it's, you know, all the choices. And, you know, I've done a lot more meditation than I've ever done in my life. I'm lucky enough, I've got a great philosophy teacher who's given me the confidence to start a mantra chanting practice. But it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just, it could be as simple as just lighting a candle, making a little space in your house or work or wherever, and just taking, you know, I started with 10 minutes, that was all I can manage now, I just do 20. If I don't make it, I don't beat myself up, but I just know that I will feel better if I make that appointment with myself. It's like making a social appointment with yourself, just to spend that quiet, reflective time. And I think for me, the more I've done it, the more valuable. And it's just taught me the importance of just being quiet with yourself. It's so valuable and so empowering. And
the more you do it, the more you feel the benefits of it, the more you want to do it.
Exactly. The more you want to go to your mat.
And then the more benefit you get from it. It's great.
And then the next thing, you know, you're running out to the shop buying joss sticks and, you know, something I never thought. I mean, I'm just watching myself doing all these strange things that I never thought I'd do, but and just loving it.
And that's interesting, because we're going down past that. We didn't quite plan, but that's great. That's what I love about these sessions, because this is what happens. And that's the thing, isn't it? Because I think it's important to let everybody know that before you came to yoga, before you became a teacher, I suppose, you were just so not that kind of person.
Yeah.
You would not, I don't think you would have described yourself as spiritual necessarily.
No, because I was, I'm not very into the whole love and light woo-woo stuff. We've used the word woo-woo quite a lot, haven't we? And it has to be grounded in something. It has to be based in something. It comes back to that discipline. It has to be rooted in something. It has to be embodied in some kind of history or some kind of understanding, some kind of lineage. And then as soon as I started to understand that with the help of a good teacher, and as you know, as a yoga teacher myself, I have many, many yoga teachers, and, you know, continue to study all the time. And the value of studying with people that know a lot more about it than me is wonderful. So that gave me an inroad into finding my own definition of what my understanding of spirituality is, and how to kind of find it in my life, so that now it has paramount importance. But it's not... For me, spirituality isn't like, oh, well, I feel like doing this today, so
it's not
I'm
angel
going to do
dust.
it. Not at all. No. I mean, I'm fascinated in the concept of angels, but it's not just like that. It's not just light and feather, you know.
It doesn't. I suppose for me, because we're very similar, aren't we? And I would say for me, it's just space and time. That's spirituality for me. Is space and time. a headspace, time with yourself, and I think that gives you then the space and time to give to other people.
Yeah. And that's very a spiritual thing, isn't it? Giving to other people, not thinking about your own troubles and your own self, and trying, you know.
Yeah. It's a great distraction from your own crap, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a great thing about it. So that leads me to another question that's not something we planned to ask, but because you talk about you've got many yoga teachers, you've got a philosophy teacher, you are continually learning new skills, you're continually building up your toolkit, aren't you?
Yeah.
So for you, is it important to invest in yourself?
Massively important. I mean, I think the word selfish came to mind then, because, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm quite a selfish person with my marriage and with my kids.
Selfish
actually
is not a bad
But that's
word,
what I was about
it?
to say, because it's not bad, because I couldn't do any of those things. I couldn't be a mother to my children if I hadn't, you know, I used to do a lot of running. That was my way of keeping myself sane when I had small children. I would just drop everything and leave the kids with the dad or whoever, their granny or whatever, and off I would go. And it's the same now, that I couldn't do my job if I didn't put that investment into me as a teacher and a human being, and I couldn't put that investment into my marriage or anything. I think it's absolutely vital, and I get so many people that come to me, some of my yoga students, and they'll say, well, I'd love to come to more than one class, or I'd love to do that workshop, but I just feel really selfish if I do it. And I sort of think, but you're not. You're if you can be the best person that you can be, and if you're happy, that's going to be so much better for the people around you, and you'll be able to relate to those people and be always there for them, rather than being kind of constrained and constricted by what you think you can't do. And I just don't think the relationship should be about stopping people from doing things. We've got to be able to be independent within that umbrella of a relationship. So for me, I mean, my husband's very understanding, you know. I just say I'm off to India for a month and he goes, all right, darling, I'll pick you up from the airport.
Very
and see you.
understanding.
That is very understanding. But it's vital for me, and I just wouldn't be able to do my job or be the person I was if I didn't have those outlets in my life. So
No, totally agree with you. And it's another thing we talk about a lot, isn't it, that we hear people say a lot, I didn't feel like it, or I wasn't in a good place, and I just and so I didn't come to class, or I didn't turn up for my coaching session or whatever. And those are exactly the times when you need to do it, aren't they?
Absolutely.
When you least feel like doing it,
Yeah.
when your energy's depleted and you feel on your knees, that's exactly when you need to invest in yourself, that time, isn't it, to go and do that.
And maybe just do it in a slightly different way. Maybe don't do it, I don't know, you could just do things in a gentle way, but just make that time for yourself, carve it out, take it. You can do something very compassionate for yourself, tune into how you're feeling that particular day, and not give yourself a day off. But, you know, if you are feeling particularly bad, just do something that's, I don't know, a little bit gentler than the hard thing that you might have to do. But
and that's not encouraging people to procrastinate.
No.
That's saying you're less likely to procrastinate if you've got a good program of self-care, aren't you? Because you'll have the energy and the mindset to apply to it.
Definitely.
So, well, we've gone completely off track now. So I was going to ask you, what's your biggest thrill about your business? What keeps you, you know, we've talked about this waning that can sometimes happen, and now you're going into new learnings, and that's sort of revitalising things for you. Is that your thrill, your continued learning?
Yeah, there are a couple of thrills, really. I mean, there's a real thrill from watching students who started yoga with you, finding that it has a real importance in their life. That's really exciting. And I'm not just talking about the people that can do asanas. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about the people who often struggle with it the most, and they'll come to class and they've got this complaint, that complaint, all these health complaints. I remember having one girl come and everything hurt. Literally everything, even lying down for Shavasana at the end, the relaxation, but even that was hurting. And she wore me out, this, you know, I was running around trying to kind of coax her through. And at the end I thought, there's no way you're ever going to stick this. Just no way in a million years are you ever going to stick this. So she came every week for about the first 2 or 3 weeks, and I was really cajoling her, and just in the end I thought, I can't keep giving all this energy to you because you're just going to give up anyway. Anyway, she completely surprised me, and she stuck at it and she came every week and she never missed. She found everything difficult, but she kept coming. And then she emailed me one day and she said, I just want you to know that I've been to the dentist for the first time in 15 years or something.
Wow.
Because of the breathing that you've taught me. So I was able to sit in the dentist chair and do that for the first time. So those kind of teeny little things that make such a massive difference in people's lives. And often the people that you least expect, it's when it touches people. And it's not me, because I'm the kind of the vehicle or the vessel or
the conduit.
The conduit, for the amazing teaching. to touch people, and that's what really kind of makes you want to do it, because it's changed my life, and so you want to be able to share that with other people so that it can change their lives.
Yeah, I think that's something I make a big deal of all the time. We're not promoting ourselves as teachers or a mentor, or that it's not about us. We're just a conduit for this stuff,
this energy.
We've got skills and experiences and energies and learnings that it's our duty to share, and it's not about us being a guru of some sort. We're just the facilitator.
Yeah, but I think the responsibility that we have is to be the best facilitators that we can be. If you're gonna teach the yoga and the things that we all do it to the best of your ability. Try and be the best person it is. It feels like it is. So yeah, that's one of the things. And also, I'm going to be I'm very excited to be learning. I'm always learning and studying. So that's very, that really inspires me. Those are the things that inspire me. Constant kind of study, because the more I can study, the more I can share, and the more I enjoy my job. If I didn't study, it would become a bit repetitive. Just teaching people to do yoga asanas would be very boring. Yeah. For me, because I've got the attention span of a gnat sometimes. I like to evolve and change. So
well, that's changing.
Yes.
That is changing. Yeah. So what about the challenges then? So that's your biggest thrill. What's your biggest challenge in your business?
That's really practical actually, but I think this goes back to what I was saying about recognising what needs to change. But just the turning up and being there time and time again. And when you're a teacher, if you run your own business, the money doesn't come in unless you're there. So that's been a big challenge, and finding my energy levels have changed quite a bit in my early 50s now, and just noticing that years of teaching 3-4 nights a week are starting to kick in a bit now. It's starting to feel a bit de-energised by that. So yeah, that's a challenge.
Okay, so how do you deal with that?
Well,
when you feel like, this is the last thing in the world I need tonight.
Yeah, well, by the time I get there, I always love it. The teaching bit is fine. It's the waiting to teach. So yeah, I've developed a few strategies. I might do something really simple. I sort of have to make my day go. I make sure I try and eat well. I don't always manage it, but I try and eat some food before I go. That can be really hard to kind of get your head around cooking good food, but that's really important. But I do
particularly
try.
if you've got to go to work.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard. That can be hard. I might do something really simple, like have a hot bath before I go. I might just watch some rubbish TV just for half an hour, just to switch off. And then once I get up, it's like a performance, and you're kind of zing. And this links very much to my days as a musician, so I'm kind of used to that whole kind of touring mentality. You get it out the bag and you come up. But it's something that I have to watch for sure, energy levels, because you can't keep doing that long term. You can feel the depletion of energy coming. So that has been a big challenge.
So you recognise that now when it's happening, and what do you do when you recognise it?
What do I do when I recognise it? Well, this is kind of what I was talking about. I think I've realised now that I think it probably has to evolve, so that I'm going to be doing a few less nights. I think now. I think I've done my years of repeated nights.
10 years is a long time.
It's a long time. I've done my time, so I think less nights. That's what I'm going to do about it.
Less nights and more learning.
More learning, more study. Yeah.
Great. Which brings me nicely.
Yes.
It's almost as if it was planned.
Yes,
to my next question, which is. And we've probably covered this already, really, because we went off a bit of a tangent.
Yeah.
But it's, what do you do to keep on track? What do you do to keep connected? What do you do to keep balance?
Well, friends, really important. Connecting with like-minded people, massively important. I've got and actually, as I'm coming into my 50s, my girlfriends have become so much more important to me than they were in my 30s and 40s. It really struck me that the other day. I'm really valuable, your friendship. We've got a little crowd that we sort of meet with on a Friday after yoga, and they're all really interesting. Yeah, can't beat it. It's best cup of tea of the week. That you can't beat that connection with strong, interesting women. They're all so inspiring, and we feed off each other's energy, so that's massively important. And I've got some other yoga teacher friends, and I connect with them regularly. And then studying is a big one for me, so I have just started to study Jyotish astrology. Wow, exactly. It's
really. You've been sharing some of it with me, and I find it fascinating.
It's absolutely fascinating. And if you'd have asked me 2 years ago astrology, I'd have looked at you like you had two heads, because I've never been interested in this, not remotely interested. Again, it's this philosophy teacher who's sort of introduced it, and I've just found myself being. She said to me once, she said to all of us, she said, if you find yourself, if there's something that comes into your life and you're just drawn to it like a magnet, you have to follow it. It's like, it's probably karma coming up from the past, that you've been here before. It's your dharma to kind of go with this if it's drawing you like a magnet. And it was just like, I had to follow it.
Yeah.
So I've started doing that, which is, and I have there are days when I can't understand it, and there are days when I think, why on earth are you doing this? Is this bit? Why on earth are you doing this? What a load of, you'll never be able to do this. It's so complicated. Why are you spending all this money doing this? But I just, from here, I just get fascinated. I get my books out and I sit and watch my lectures, and I'm just 3 hours later, I understand a little bit more. Well, that's progress, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's no learning like passionate learning,
No.
is there? It's not like you're at school and you were forced to learn
Yeah.
things you weren't even interested in. Like geometry and
Nightmare
trigonometry and all
Maths.
that. Algebra. Who's used algebra since I left school?
Yeah.
But yeah, Jyotish astrology is one of those things I think that's for definitely for non-woo-woo people as well, because there's a lot of science about it. It's based in science, isn't it? So it's not this, the perception of, whenever you use the word astrology, it's like this ethereal,
nebulous sort of.
Yeah, but Jyotish isn't, is it?
No,
it's really grounded in science.
Absolutely, it's very practical, very formulaic. It's like cracking a code, and I can't crack it yet. I don't even know what the code is. It's so complicated, but it's building blocks. It's all these layers, but it's like rules, and it's discipline. It's an incredibly disciplined subject, but from that discipline comes this incredibly creative beauty of looking at somebody's charts, and I found it very, very accurate in my life. I'm just beginning to look at other people's charts, but I'm certainly not at the stage of reading anybody else's yet, but I'm just beginning to look at my own chart, and it's like looking at a weather forecast in the sky. So if you can understand what the weather forecast is in your life, it will help you to manage those energies better in your own life, to be better prepared, so you can make better decisions, and just be aware of what's likely to be influencing you. It's not that it can't sort of tell you what's going to happen to you, but it can just tell you what the planetary energies are around at the moment in your life, and how that might be affecting you, and how you can be just more subtly aware of it.
And at the time of your birth as well, isn't it? So that you understand more about your characteristics and your tolerances.
Your predispositions and what karma you've come in with, and what can't be changed, and what you can work. If you can understand what you came in with, you can understand how to work your way through the things that maybe are a bit weaker in your chart. Nobody has an all bad chart, but you can understand how to work with the sides of your personality, on your strengths and your weaknesses. So Jyotish is light. It's bringing knowledge, the light of knowledge into your life. It's very beautiful. It's really beautiful.
The more you learn about yourself, the more you can make those informed decisions about important and non-important things, can't you? It all makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it is psychology, but from thousands of years ago.
Well, that's where it was all derived from, isn't it?
Absolutely. And then coupled with that, I'm just about making a decision to start to study some Ayurveda as well, which I'm very, very interested in. And I'm kind of quite passionate about the idea. This is what's evolving from what the direction I'd like to change is to kind of, if I can work with students in a much more holistic way, so look at Jyotish horoscopes, look at Ayurveda, look at what people bring to me, because people bring all sorts of things to me. So if I could give them those kind of answers, as well as yoga asanas, that we just a more holistic package for living people, for people to live their lives.
Yeah, I'm really keen for you to get on with all that.
Yeah, I need to
really appeals to me.
So I'm going to maybe retreat for a little bit for a year. And for the first time in my life, give myself this time. I've never done it, and I'm watching. This is the other thing, because I'm watching my girls who are in their early 20s. And then we're at the stage where they're coming home from uni and living with us, which is great. Interesting, most of the time. But they're all going off and doing this travelling stuff, and I'm thinking, I never did that. My turn. So
I don't know when this year out thing started, but it definitely passed me by.
Completely passed me by. So I'm thinking, I could do with my own a bit of a year out, work a bit less, just go deep. I want to go deep inside, deeper in, and just retreat a little bit and study. And see where it takes me.
I think we should campaign for the mature year out.
Yes.
What do you think?
I think I'm right on the first on the list.
I feel a movement coming on. Yeah. Not that kind of movement. A campaign.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm with you. Right, let's get the banners. Brilliant. No, I totally agree with you. I think because I think we're lucky when we get to this age. We do know ourselves better, and we do a lot more self-reflection. We're not as defensive about things, and we're more inclined to go internal and do a bit of soul searching, aren't we? And that can lead to that. It's a real sense of freedom, I think, don't you?
Yeah, just
you discovering yourself and having less hang-ups about things, and not being bothered about those perceptions, outward perceptions.
I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I don't care. I don't give a toss who thinks what. I'm not worried about that label, or she does this for a living, or I just don't care. Don't care. That's so nice to be able to say
comparisons.
that.
Don't all the comparisons.
Yeah. And if, you know, I don't know, yeah, I'm not bothered what I do. As long as I can get enough money coming in, that's all good.
Can't fault you.
Mm.
Definitely. Well, I think we're coming towards the end, so I think all I've got left to say to you really is, obviously a lot of my people that will be watching this will be creative entrepreneurial women, the women in business. So as a fellow woman in business, what one thing, if you could, would you share with them?
Oh, heck.
A bit of wisdom, little snippet. If you were starting again now, I suppose, what do you wish you...
One thing that really sticks in my mind from when I was starting up, and I had full of ideas, and I remember reading, it's a very famous book, and I think you might be able to tell me who wrote it because I can't remember. It's Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I love that book. Jeffers, that's it. Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I read that book, and she was very empowering. And but one of the things that she said that really stuck in my mind: write your business plan out, write your ideas out, and then tear it up and shove it out the window. And I think that's a really good piece of advice, which we've kind of covered earlier, haven't we? But don't be stuck on outcomes. Don't be, because that's just going to lead you to disappointment if you think it has to all be this way, and it probably isn't going to work out that way. It'll work out some way. It'll take you somewhere, but and just read lots of books, connect with lots of other people, and feed off each other's energy.
Brilliant.
Don't be on your own.
Point on that. That outcomes thing is a big one for me. Because when I first started out in business, I had this perception of how I was supposed to be with the business cards and the letterheads and all the rest of it, you know. And actually, on reflection now, I realised that I was so focused on that one direction that I was missing opportunities left, right and centre for things that were more aligned to my true purpose. And I let those go because I was so fixated on that one path, that one direction. Yeah.
And I think if you really go with that thing that pulls you like a magnet, stick with that, and then it seems to me, and this has certainly been my experience, that things just evolve, which the universe just has our back, doesn't it? So if you align yourself to what you're passionate about, those opportunities will arise and will come.
Yeah, and I think that was by far my biggest learning, and why I'm so evangelical now about this connectedness thing is because if you are truly 100% connected to what you're doing, it's never going to feel like work for a start. No. But it's going to flow so much more easily. Definitely. And opportunities will present themselves. It's when you're disconnected and doing the things that you think you should and thinking about those perceptions that things get clunky and messy.
And I think if it is clunky, listen to that and thinking, you know, why is that? Maybe I'm not quite attuned to where I need to be going here. If I'm getting nothing but shut doors and it's just not working, maybe there's a sign there that you just need to have a bit of a think about that.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you for the tea.
We covered all manner of things that we didn't plan to, and that's the beauty of these sessions, because we just get chatting, and that's it, isn't it? So if people want to find out more about what you're doing now and what you're going to, more excitingly, what you're going to be doing in the future, how do they get in touch with you?
You can go to my website, which is www.yogayourself.co.uk.
I'll put a link in
that'd be great.
Post the video
and you can sign up to my newsletter.
Great.
And then I can keep you up to date with what's going on.
Because we don't want to be missing all that.
No.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
You're very welcome. Nice to see you.